Hello, hello. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I realize that not a lot of people may tune in because there is it is the holiday season and all that. So I wanted to do kind of a last minute show, try to get one or two in um, before the holiday season. I did not release a video today. I'm trying to take a little bit of a break, but how much of a break is this if I'm joining here now? So I am just logging into my other account here. So I hope everyone is doing well in this holiday season. Make sure you say hello so I can acknowledge you. And regardless, we are going to jump into it because I know that this is, kind of a good time for you all, but time of year, I should say. But I want to say hello and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you, to whatever it is that you celebrate, Kwanzaa or Christmas, or if there's any Jewish folks out there. What is they? Yeah, I don't even know what they celebrate something. I don't mean to be disparaging, but there's something going on out here. So hello to everyone, and thanks so much for joining. Hello to you, Deborah. I appreciate it. I'm just trying to find my other show here. Trying to find my show. I hope everyone is well. I hope everybody's doing well, getting your Christmas gifts wrapped up. Everybody all finished with wrapping up their Christmas gifts and doing whatever else you want to be doing in this time of year and shopping and all that kind of stuff. I have determined not to celebrate Christmas anymore, not because I'm a bah humbug, but my kids are grown. So what am I doing, right? So, all right. So we're going to jump into it today. We're going to jump into it. So I got a few things, a few videos to go over. And so regardless, this will live on the internet, whether people join or not, we'll have a good show and all that kind of good stuff. So make sure that you do hit the like button on the way in. I would really appreciate it. Merry Christmas, Chris. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas, Tanya. Thank you so much for joining in for today and for everyone else who's going to join. Merry Christmas to you. Happy holidays. Make sure that you are safe in this holiday season. I ended off the last live that we did talking about that and me being a former police officer and all. And even Chris, so he can tell you, the amount of accidents that happen on car accidents as well as inside the home, really, I don't know what the statistics are, but they certainly seem to go up. And I have had to deliver many a times bad news to people because their family or loved one, unfortunately, succumbed to some type of accident. So watch your drinking. Be careful around your family and friends and all that kind of good stuff, and try to make this holiday season a safe holiday season. All that. So. All right, so a few videos for us today, and I want to talk about the problems with feminism. So I was watching a couple of videos over the weekend because you all make me watch this kind of stuff. So I was watching a couple of videos over the weekend, and one of them really kind of stood out to me. So I wanted to review that, and I didn't want to wait too late. So we're going to get to it. Best wishes to you, Lorelai. Absolutely, absolutely. I hope that the next year will be your best year. Everyone's best next year will be their best year. I certainly hope that for everyone. All right, so we're going to jump into it here. First video is up. Is let's see, where is this at? Okay. Um, hmm, can't seem to find it. Where is it? All right. Couple videos for us today. So we're going to take a look at feminism, what it has done, what it is doing. Again, I got two main videos that I want to show, but first couple to people kind of trickle in here is we're going to take a look at we're going to take a look at a video here um, about the problems that this young lady is having in the dating market, I should say. Problems this young lady is having in the dating market. Share screen. Here we go. She's asking, are the men okay?
y'all. I am here to tell you that the men are not okay. So I went on a date with this guy on Friday, and y'all, let me tell you about this date. So he got tickets to a comedy show, and he picked me up around 8 o'clock. Cool. We get to the comedy show. We're there about an hour early, and he says he's hungry, and we're right across the street from a taco spot. So he's like, "Let's go get tacos." I'm like, "Cool." Now, mind you, to give you a little context, um, he bought the comedy show tickets. They were $25 each. So he paid for that. We get to the taco spot. I wasn't that hungry. So he ordered three tacos and I ordered one because I wasn't very hungry. So we get the tacos and we sit down at the table. And, we're just chatting, just talking, whatever. And he has two cups in his hands that the cashier had given him. And he's like, "Oh, let's go get some drinks. Let's go get our drinks." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Do you actually mind just grabbing me a water?" And y'all, after I asked him if he could grab me a water, his face completely changed. His energy completely changed. And I said to him, I was like, "Are you okay? Like, is something wrong? Like, what's happening here?" And he he pushes the cups towards me and he goes, "Why don't you go get us some water?" And again, I'm hella confused. I'm like, "What do you mean?" Like, I'm just like, sure, I can go get some water, but I'm confused. Like, am I missing something? Like, I'm genuinely confused. And he goes, "Why don't both of us go get drinks?" And I'm like, "Okay." Like, I'm again genuinely confused. I have no idea why this is happening, but we get up, we go get water, or we go get drinks, and we sit back down at the booth. So we get to the booth, and this man says, "I have a question for you. Are you the kind of woman that is going to, serve your man?" I said, "What?" He said, "Are you the kind of woman that caters to your man? Is that something that you do?" And I said to him, "Why are you asking me this question? I'm confused. Why are you asking me this question? Did I miss something?" And then he goes, "Well, I'm treating you to the state. Like, I bought us the comedy show tickets. I paid for the tacos. And again, mind you, y'all, he got three tacos and I got one. He said, I paid for the tacos. I'm treating you. And it just feels like you haven't really contributed anything to the state." And he goes on to talk about how he was offended that I asked him to grab me a water. Y'all, I started seeing black. I started seeing black. I started seeing black. I said, "This is not real life." Y'all, when this man was done telling me what was in his heart and crashing out, I said, "Are you finished?" And he said, "Yes." I picked up my purse and I walked out. I got an Uber and I went home.
All right. So in this particular instance, this young lady goes out on a date, as we saw, and had an issue, or the young man who took her on a date, I'm assuming is a young man, asked her about, being pleasing to, how would you plan to be pleasing to your mate, all over, her asking for water. I would be anxious or to hear his side of the story. But I think that this is, as we talk about feminism for tonight, that's the topic for tonight, feminism. What is the expectations on dates? Who pays? Who gets drinks? Who goes up and gets straws if you forgot them? What's going on out here? And I think that from this guy's commentary, excuse me, from her commentary, I think that the idea is that if we're going 50, if this is a 50-50 world, you ought to do something for me. You ought to do something for me. So, love to hear you all's opinions about that. Hello to you, Yoli, Rising Phoenix. I think I said hello to you already. Merry Christmas, Pastor Lynn. Good evening. A couple of surprisey faces there. He has a slight point. If he is doing most, she could have got the drinks to show she's not just a user. And this is the complication that we are coming into now, because a lot of times, a lot of young ladies are just wanting to go on a date and just be recipients, right? The guy's got to put on this performance. He's got to show that he's a gentleman, holds doors. He's got to show that he is some type of provider. Obviously, his mere presence of being a man is some form of protection. So he has to do something. So what is it that she has done besides he bought the comedy show tickets? He bought the food. Okay, he bought 3 tacos. She had one. What is it that you're contributing? That's what the guy wants to know. And that's what the guy wants to know. And I think that he has a right to wonder that. If I'm buying you tickets to the comedy show, I'm doing this, and you're like, oh, just grab me a water, you're going to get me a water. Like, wait a minute, because after a while it becomes questionable as to when is it usury, not usury, but when are you using me just for a free meal? How much energy are you going to put into this date? And what do you have to show me? If I have to show you I'm a gentleman, if I have to show you I have the financial means to pay, what is it that you have to reciprocate to me? Dating is getting to know each other, and I want to make sure that this is a two-way street. So he could have gotten a hug and a kiss on the cheek at the end, but he blew it. Yeah, he does all that, right? He's out, what comedy show tickets, depending what show you go to and all that. Could have been out plus the meal, $250. He got a hug and a kiss. All right, so that was that one here. Was it the first date? I just came on. I'm not sure if it's the first date or not. That's a good question. I think it was a first date. I think it was a first date, and yes, there are many questions. We can't get a lot of context from these short interactions. These 2 or 3 minute. This was a 3-minute clip, but we can't get a lot of context behind that. So, all right. So next video up. Next video seems like that escalated very quickly to rapid in unnecessary exit. I think that this is the issue that so many people are dealing with now, is that they don't want to deal with a bunch of nonsense. That they are probably watching a lot of videos, TikTok videos, Instagram videos such as this on YouTube, seeing what's going on out here, seeing women like Shira 7 saying this is how you finesse a guy, this is how you get over on a guy, this is how you get a guy to pay for your dates. You don't have to be interested in him, you just have to do whatever these other social media influencers are doing. And the guys are watching this and saying, I'm going to be hip to this. And the very moment that somebody shows any ounce of unappreciation, any ounce of using me, not at least offering to pay, offering for a tip, pulling up my chair, or not pulling up my chair, but what some type of reciprocation. Um, going up to get the straws. Oh, listen, I'm carrying the tray. Oh, I forgot the forks. Going back and the young lady going back. Just show us something that you're invested, something that you are that you want to be here, rather than just a free ride, a free date, et cetera, et cetera. Good to see you too, Dolores. Thank you so much. Chivalry is still masculine, and women with class find it sexy and appreciate it. We're going to get to that. Got a video that's going to show that. Going to talk about that. However, I was going to get my own. However, I was going to get my own water. If he was a gentleman, he was going to offer to get it. Yeah, particular scenario that they had already sat down, and he's like, "Oh, I need to get a water," and so I think he wanted her to do something. He wanted her to do something. And this is your comment, Yoli, is really what men are struggling with, is where is the line between chivalry and being used? Where is the line between chivalry and being used? I'm not going to play it tonight, but I was watching another video in which they were talking, actually, it might be the same video, in which they were talking about, girls in the schoolyard, and school age children, right? If you tell the girls that the boys can't hit you, or tell the boys even as well, boys can't hit you back, all you do is provoke the girls to provoke the guys. You can't hit me, I'm going to hit you, I'm not going to hit, and you can't hit me back. It's definitely a video that I watched. I don't think I'm going to play it tonight. So hello to you, Miss Anita. Good evening, everyone. Dr. L, hope you have a great Christmas holiday week. Take some time off and enjoy. Absolutely. I want to get this in before we went away for the vacation. Thank you so much for joining. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, next video. This I am. Let me say this beforehand. I am not endorsing violence in any way, but this is designed to make us laugh. So make sure you have a good laugh at it.
I know goddamn well that them goddamn hot dogs and french fries ain't for me because I'm a motherfucking man. I don't eat no goddamn hot dogs and french fries. Now, I want you to carry your ass in that kitchen and cook some neck bones, some rice, some black eyed peas, some butter beans. You understand? Some cornbread. You know what I mean? And I be in the den watching Gunsmoke and drinking my Hennessy and smoking my motherfucking cigars. Now, if I don't start hearing some goddamn pans rattling before this Hennessy kick in, then I'm gonna goddamn take my foot and I'm gonna make your ass rattle. Do you hear me? I know goddamn well that them goddamn hot dogs and french fries ain't for me because I'm a motherfucking man. I don't eat no goddamn hot dogs and french fries. Now, I want you to carry your ass in that kitchen and cook some neck bones, some rice, some black eyed peas, some butter beans. You understand? Some cornbread. You know what I mean? And I be in the den watching Gunsmoke and drinking my Hennessy and smoking my motherfucking cigars. Now, if I don't start hearing some goddamn pans rattling before this Hennessy kick in, then I'm gonna goddamn take my foot and I'm gonna make your ass rattle. Do you hear me?
So listen, for all you younger ladies out there who think about you tired of these men who in the previous video that I showed, you tired of men like that, you think you're gonna get yourself an older man. This may be the type of conversation that you may have. So don't think you're gonna cook him some hot dogs and some fries. No, 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 no. He with some butter beans and some ribs and whatever else he said. So and he want to hear the pans rattling before the Hennessy kicked in. Oh man, I think it's too early to think she wouldn't do anything. Something tells me his presentations were prompting her hesitation answering the question and then leaving. I think we can't get well. I mean, I guess we can all think something, but I think that what's clear is that he wanted some type of reciprocation. He wanted some type of reciprocation, and he he didn't get any of that. So yeah. All right, let's see. I gotta switch lanes here. All right, a couple more videos and then we'll get to the main event for the evening. If you stick around, Miss Anita, you're certainly welcome to come up and give your thoughts about the videos that we're going to watch. So I have to find the other video. I got to switch profiles here. So just a second. Just a second. That's not what I wanted. That is not what I wanted. Is it the home? Oh, messages. Here it is. Messages. Where am I at? Switch. Messages. Come on now. All right. So here is Miss someone has talked about before, and she's going to talk about why so many In particular, Black women are single. So we'll jump into this one here. Forgive me for this. Let's see. What did I just? Good evening to you. High vibe greetings. What did I just see? Yeah, it's crazy. Homeboy needs to get up and help Auntie cook the butter beans. Nah, he's gonna be in the den. He's gonna be in the den, sipping on his Hennessy, and also smoking his cigar. And he better see what he better see. So this is former dating coach or life coach or dating coach. Oh gosh, her name is escaping me here, but we'll get into it.
Other cultures kind of get this. I need you to hear me. Other cultures tend to get this. And when I say other cultures, I'm talking about white culture, Indian culture. I'm talking about other cultures other than African Americans. And a lot of the time what happens is you're mistaking the playboy for a husband, and you're trying to marry a playboy instead of marrying a husband. And that's a lot of women don't realize this. A lot of women don't realize this. And this is why you continue to have such horrible dating experiences, because you could be sitting there ignoring the husband material, ignoring the man that is already put you in his forever category. A man will sleep with you, hang out with you, Netflix and chill with you, and you are not his type at all, but he enjoys the sex, he enjoys your company, he enjoys the fun. And now as a woman, you've put this type of man into the husband material. They looked at the playboy and said, he just wasn't the one, he wasn't faithful, he wasn't ready to settle down. But Rebecca, as a matchmaker, I want you to find me the man who looks like Mr. Playboy, who wants to be loyal and faithful to me and committed to me, and find me my husband, but I want him to look like Mr. Playboy and act like Mr. By the time I realized that other cultures kind of get this, I need you to hear me. Other cultures tend to get this. And when I say other cultures, I'm talking.
So I have talked about her before, and I've talked about the dating issues that we have, unfortunately, in the Black community, and the mating strategies that we have to have, or that we have to really try to fix. And it's really disappointing that we have to continue to talk about this type of thing. So I wanted to play that. I want to play that just to kind of get to where we are as a culture, and really say we got to do something to fix this. Yep, that's most Black women. They want to turn the playboy into their husband. Rarely happens. Yeah. Disjunction, maybe dysfunction. That what you meant? Black women get this. Unfortunately, it's too late. Certainly, I want to play a couple of videos here. We're going to get to the main argument for tonight. And again, you're invited to come up, Miss Nita, if you have the time and want to. All right. So this is let's see. So I'm going to play a few minutes of this conversation. This is a conversation that I was watching over the weekend. I said I'm gonna share this. The dark history, and this is the dark history of feminism.
To have children, to embody.
So as you can see here, this is a lady here. This is the dark history of feminism with Carrie Gress, and Human Nature with Ronnie Folks. So interesting conversation that they had. I'm going to speed it up a little bit. I think the first 8 minutes we're going to try to get through, but I am going to I think it's definitely worth watching. If you guys get the time and you have the inclination, we'll try 1.5 speed. If it's too fast, then I'll slow it down.
Body the mother.
The vulnerability that comes to a woman when she has a baby. This is the best thing about having a great husband, is that you're not shouldering this by yourself.
There's no preparation for it. There's a lot of surprise, a lot of frustration.
If you're doing exactly what the culture is telling you to do, then you are not a free thinker. You are just going along with the crowd. How do we present women who are beautiful and compelling doing what women do instead of trying to be more like men?
There's a culture that's telling you that you need to feel not okay with your current situation.
They haven't had people to show them like that's not real love.
Hello and welcome to the Bigger Picture podcast. Today I have with me Carrie Gress, an author and philosopher, and we're going to speak about her latest book called The End of Woman. Carrie, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
I think your work is so important because we are living in a day and age where women have been possessed really by a very insidious ideology called feminism. And to anyone thinking, what could be wrong with feminism? We want equality for everybody. We're super compassionate. I think that's part of the danger of this ideology. You're not even really able to question it and to analyze the different ideas and axioms it's built on, like you would do with any ideology. And I know you're familiar with this process, having a doctorate in philosophy. So feminism hasn't really allowed us, so to speak, to really take a sober look at its origins, its motivations, and intellectual influences. And that's why this book is so important, because I think it really invites that kind of conversation. So while we're on the subject of starting difficult conversation, one big question that I think our civilization has been asking itself in earnest in the last 2 centuries at least is, what is a woman? And Matt Walsh's documentary was very timely in that regard and really showed the absurd age that we're living in. So I would love your thoughts on this question. How do you even go about answering it for yourself? And why do you think it's taking center stage right now?
Yeah. No, I think that's obviously the biggest question that we're faced with right now. And part of it is just the confusion that's been created because of the fact that we've really stripped the idea of the ontological woman away from what women do. And I think that's confusing. So womanhood is confusing because of the fact that we've tried to incorporate this idea of authenticity. So if I feel like a woman, I must therefore be a woman. And that doesn't really point to what the body is. It doesn't point to what the soul is. It doesn't point to kind of this combination of body and soul that womanhood really is. So obviously I like Matt Walsh's answer, a woman is an adult female human, but I think that there's a lot more to it where we can say objectively that motherhood is a key aspect of womanhood. And I think that that's a crucial part that's really been missing because we think of motherhood as kind of something optional. We don't think of biological or psychological motherhood as a key piece anymore. So I think those bigger pieces need to be filled back into it and our understanding of womanhood.
So let me just pause there. I mean, we're still having conversations about what is a woman, trying to define that. And it's just bizarre to me that this is an actual legitimate conversation that people are still having along the way. And it's just baffling to me. And so what they're going to get into, I think a little bit here, is about womanhood. What is a woman? What is womanhood? And where we're going with this. And they're going a lot of the history, and that's going to be really, really vital and essential. And that's really what I want to get into, is the history.
Absolutely. And I can tell you that, I spoke with Helen Joyce about, womanhood, and she's attacking this kind of conversation from the transgender side. Yeah. But when I said that femininity is associated with nurturing, with mothering, and I love that you said this, that you don't actually have to have children to embody the mother, to be a mother to others, to be a mentor, to care for others, to be warm, to, to fill in the functions of nurturance. And I got nasty comments about that, just that association alone, as if there's something negative about it. So I think you really illuminate this really well in the history of feminism, how we got to this place where it's almost not okay even to associate motherhood with being a woman. There's this gender abolitionist kind of thread going through the history. So let's start at the roots. Where did feminism start? And paint us kind of the sentiment of the counterculture during the time of the first feminist.
This is important.
Therapy has always been such a scary idea to me because I simply did not know where to get started. I didn't know how to find my person.
Yeah, so I mean, this is obviously a huge question. And I think that, thinking through this question, the biggest thing that we can do to sort of frame it is to say feminism has really asked the question, how do we help women? Which is obviously a good and important question. But the answer is through the lens of making women more like men. So if you see it that way, then it makes perfect sense, sort of the trajectory of the last 200 years. But from the beginning, the first
Did you hear that? Feminism is really to make women more like men. I am maintaining, the more I'm researching this, I read a book. I read a couple books, Who Stole Feminism, a couple other books. I haven't read this one that they're talking about. This one, this lady, Carrie Gress, wrote. But I'm thinking that women really they looked at men, they looked at the lives that men led, and they thought they were easy. They thought that they were, they thought that they had all the glory. They went out to war. They chopped trees down. They were outside all day. They got to move freely, and women just didn't like being women. If we both make love and produce a baby, I got to carry it for 9 months. I got to be stuck in the house changing Pampers. And not that I'm saying that I certainly changed my kids' diapers and all that, but it just seems to be a complete set of jealousy that was going on. So we'll continue talking about this.
Wollstonecraft she's considered the first feminist. She's not obviously called a feminist because that word didn't come around for another 80 years or something after her death. But Wollstonecraft is absolutely kind of given the bedrock idea. She writes these articles and these pamphlets basically talking about how women are mistreated, and women have the use of reason, and we need to focus on that and help women really become free through their use of reason and break from the shackles of any kind of hierarchy. So the military, the church, all of these kinds of things are problematic in her work. So anyway, Wollstonecraft focuses on that issue, and she's very much an Enlightenment thinker. She's a radical, actually. She's very much promoting this idea of egalitarianism and sort of collapsing the sexes into just sameness. And that's really where things got started, because she's using this language of just how men have oppressed women throughout history, and women need to sort of unshackle themselves from that. And that gets picked up throughout the next 100 years, really, by Elizabeth Cady Stanton. It actually gets picked up first by her son-in-law, Percy Shelley, whom she never met. She died in childbirth. And Percy Shelley took this idea of his mother-in-law, this women's revolution that he called it. And then he took the ideas of his father-in-law, William Godwin, who was very anti-marriage and thought it was a kind of slavery. And he connected it with the occult, actually. And he creates this woman who's this first independent woman, that she's not defined by any kind of relationships, whether it's as a mother or a wife. She has a relationship with Satan, but that's it. So she becomes a sort of model that all later feminists in the 1800s start focusing on. And what Shelley also did was rewrite Genesis. He wanted Eve to be the heroine. And so that comes up later in Elizabeth Cady Stanton and the first wave feminists. So
y'all hearing this? They rewrote Genesis, wanted Eve to be the hero. This is what she's saying. This is the origins of these of what a lot of people are embracing in this time. This is crazy, Yes, Chris, every woman is not ladylike, and that's the difference. And that's going to come out in another video I'm going to show about feminism and being femininity versus feminism. Let's see. There's something very severely wrong with someone who relies on research to humanize people. Feminism is about being human. It has nothing to do with anything he's talking about. Feminism is women voting. See why you got vet and try to spirit. You can't vet capitalism. Feminism is about capitalism for women. Feminism is about capitalism for women. I think they're going to address this, but she's going to say something. I don't know if it's in this first 8 minutes that I'm going to try to get through, or if it's going to be something that she says a little bit later on. But she talks about, in this video, they talk about feminism really being a self-defense mechanism against being vulnerable. Again, as I said before, a lot of ladies didn't like being vulnerable. They didn't like the fact that the world was rough and tough, or that the men were stronger. They don't like that. So feminism became a way to fight back. These are not my words. These are her words that she's going to say eventually in this video if we get to it. So I want to play a little bit more of this.
It's really interesting because we have this sense that the first waivers were very, Victorian and prim and proper, and they just wanted temperance and male chastity and women's freedom and the vote. And when you start digging into it, you realize there's some really vicious and dark and ugly things going on simultaneously. And that was something that I was shocked by, but was such an amazing thing to discover and really make sense of the bigger picture based on that foundation.
Absolutely. I think just to highlight for people here, the backdrop really was of the Enlightenment. God is dead.
Yes.
And human reason is being elevated across the board. All of the great thinkers, especially, the counterculture, the French Revolution has taken place. A lot of things are being questioned, and reason is being held up as this supreme good, and women can have reason just like men. And we're looking at human nature in this very new way. If God isn't the one who creates human nature, then we can design our own society, our own way of being, and maybe we can redesign what it means to be a woman. And I see really this stream going through all of the feminists, and with that, the Marxist communist influences. You have this egalitarianism, you have this fighting between classes. And what I was shocked by was how early these ideas crept in. I was thinking of the 1900s, but tell us, where were the communist influences during these times? Where were they coming into play?
Okay, so this was also the other fascinating piece was, of course, this, what I just laid out was the 1800s. You fast forward to the 1900s and the communists show up, of course, and we saw what happened in the Soviet Union and how egalitarianism was really important. Children are shuttled off to schools, men and women work, their family, the family was really targeted, and husband and wife didn't have the same days off, all these kinds of ways in which they really tried to break up the family. And abortion, of course, was rampant. So that's the communist mission, is sort of atheism, free love, or, breaking down the family, and then restructuring society into egalitarianism. So those are the three things of communism, and feminism has almost the exact same three. It has the free love idea, which was huge in the 1800s, getting rid of marriage, the egalitarianism that comes from Mary Wollstonecraft, and then the occult piece. So these groups initially were really at a didn't like each other. And then the communists actually realized that they had all these agitated professors and professional women that they could really tap into their anger and kind of make them communists. And so what's fascinating is to see how this idea, I've called it somewhere else, not in my books, but this idea of the gospel of discontent, where women, by both socialists and communists, are told that they should be that they are miserable because they're mothers, and that we really have to get rid of motherhood and get women working, which is obviously a very communist idea, this idea of productive work. So that's where it starts early on. It really proliferates up until the 1950s and 60s with McCarthyism, where these ideas get shut down because of McCarthyism. But then Betty Friedan comes out and writes The Feminine Mystique. And, people don't realize that is a communist book. She really wanted to get women out of the home and doing productive work. And this is why she calls the home the comfortable concentration camp. I mean, she uses language that, it's just mind blowing that she got away with it when she did. But she's the one that really brought out front and center this idea of work as the priority, mothering and home as really vile and evil things, reprehensible things that women should never engage in, and really push women out the door of their homes. So that's the real linchpin that really married the two together, I think, in the minds of women. This is why, motherhood is so denigrated, because of what Friedan did.
Control and domination. That's the goal of all power systems.
All right, I want to fast forward a little bit. I don't like stealing all people's content. So I think it's about the 50-minute mark here that there's something else that's important that they start talking about.
Intimidated by. It's the hostility, the antagonism.
Yeah.
Who are really struggling, whether it's finding a partner, they're dating, and they don't understand why, men aren't attracted to strong women. And I always find this really funny because, good men, strong men are looking for a strong woman. Life is hard, and they need someone at their side who can, be a partner to raising children and building this thing called a family. And it's not the strength that they're intimidated by. It's the hostility, the antagonism.
Exactly.
And there is a difference. Can you tell us, what do you think about this kind of girl boss energy? And what do you think can help women step out of it a little bit?
Yeah. No, I think it's such a big question. I went through this in my own life. I was pursuing a PhD in Washington, D.C. I was working on K Street for a think tank. And I just, couldn't figure out why all my ex-boyfriends kept marrying kindergarten teachers. What do these kindergarten teachers have? Because I had absorbed the culture so much that you got to pursue and be, smart and, just ambitious and all of these kinds of things. And so I really spent a lot of time just paying attention to what do men say about women when women aren't listening. And I think the best place is through music and poetry. You don't see men admiring, the angry, nagging woman in a pantsuit. There's something really important, again, about this idea of women not only mirroring, but also sort of absorbing people and affirming their goodness and giving them peace and a place of consolation. And, it sounds so fluffy and silly based on our culture, but it's a real thing. It's very important. And for a man to sort of feel like he's always constantly going to have to be in this debate or discussion or fighting about things all the time. Like nobody wants to be around that. Women don't want to be around that unless they've been sort of trained that that's a good, but men definitely don't want to be in that kind of environment, especially at home, especially if they work in that kind of environment. Now, obviously temperaments are different. So
no, we don't. She's absolutely right. Absolutely right. We do not want to be in that environment.
There's going to be some, but I think it's you're right on to focus on that idea of the hostility and the sense of like, we've got to beat the men, we've got to outdo them, which I know was instilled in me from as a very young girl. Most of us are all, so many of us are sort of recovering from this. So anyway, I think that's the real.
So if you caught that, right, she said that, this was instilled in her. You got to beat the men. You got to be in competition with the men. This is always, to me, again, this is where I'm going to go back to what she laid out in the beginning of this, is that this is about competition with men. I'm pretty sure it's in this video. If not, it'll be in another video that I can lay out, where they talk about it really became this self-defense type of thing. I'm pretty sure it's in this video. It's really become a self-defense thing. Jealous of men get to go out, men get to have relations with who they want, men get to live this certain type of life, and they didn't want it. They start to denigrate motherhood, stop being mothers, all this kind of stuff, right? It's just crazy, just absolutely crazy. And this is what far too many people are getting wrapped up in. Just a few more minutes of this, and then we'll go on to the next video.
Real key is to look at, okay, what kind of strength do you mean? Is it the hostility that you're presenting, where you sort of have to just be it all? Or is it, are you just have a different kind of strength where you're wise and you're prudent and you can see reality for what it is, and you want to build on that instead of sort of tear people down around you. And I think that's what men are really looking for, is that kind of woman with that kind of vision, instead of it just being all elbows.
Right. I think most women don't understand that men are constantly competing in their lives, and they want to come home to a woman who's soft. And that doesn't mean you're a doormat. That doesn't mean you're complacent, but it means that you're warm and you're receptive and you're loving. And there's a maternal energy about you. The relationship isn't only about sex. There is a companionship. There's a place where he can put his guard down and soften, because he's this big, strong man, but he's got a warm and fuzzy heart inside, and he needs a place where that can be expressed. And if a woman doesn't give that to him, a man won't have that in his life. And that's kind of the service that women do for men.
Sorry about these commercials here.
And it's also that element of respect too, that if a man doesn't feel respected, that, all of those things he's going to find somewhere else. You're exactly right. If he doesn't have that in his wife. And I think that that's another key piece. It's not that you sort of have to look doughy-eyed at him all the time, but you need to build each other up and be really respectful of who we are. And if you're constantly stuck in, nagging mode or toxic, focused on toxic masculinity, then you're, and wanting things to be exactly the same, where he's doing the same amount of dishes you are, and, all of that, these are not things that are really going to build a relationship. Unfortunately, I think we're seeing just so much of this brokenness.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So that's all I want to play for that. I don't like stealing all people's content. So go over to this channel here. This just came out actually a couple of days ago. Human Nature with Ronnie Folks. It came out 2 days ago. The Dark Side of Feminism. Check out the rest of that. Give her a like. Let me give it a like. So I thought the whole conversation was good. And she referenced, hold on, let me stop sharing this here. She referenced, I'm going to watch this one here about the trans debate here. I will not do a show. I don't think I'll do a show about that. So let's see here. Let me look through my history here. There's another, she referenced a lady in that video clip that I want to suggest that you all go watch. Present, share screen. So this is a lady that they referenced in the video, and her name is Joyce Benison. The Difference Between Men and Women. I highly suggest people go out there and watch this video. Keep Talking podcast. The Difference Between Men and Women. And this lady does a fantastic job talking about, let me see, you can see that this is her. It's not a very flattering picture here. She's a little bit older, but she has been studying the psychology, the development of school-age children for years. And you can see Joyce's work with children, what she's done, the major differences between men and women. Actually, we'll play this a little bit here. The major differences between men and women. We'll play this. This was a good interview.
I was at a traffic light in my car. I see a black.
Both children and adults, so girls and women, or boys and men. What you see is both different interests, and of course we can go into those interests, but they're pretty well known, whether you want to talk about empathy or interest in, young children or disabled people or whatever it is, and or competition, contests, sports, whatever, so those different interests. But in addition to the different interests, they're carried out differently. So what you have is females much more preferring to make close dyadic friendships, if we're talking about unrelated individuals, versus males who like lots of males around, lots of peers. They like to form small hierarchies, and I say small hierarchies because it's within a peer group. So you have the dominant and the next dominant, and they'll switch around. So one of them might be dominant if they're playing a certain sport, but the other one's better in the other sport, so he's dominant. So there's like a fight to the death, and then they pick themselves up and they go on and they fight it again because it's not really causing too much injury, and they prefer to do something else. Females, in contrast, are really in big hierarchies in the sense that they're intergenerational. So I think women more than men are much more involved in, with grandparents and with offspring and, maybe aunts and uncles and so forth. So that hierarchy is preformed. There's nothing you can do about it. That's what females live in. And I find females much closer to home, much more interested in just what goes on in the home, and males escape whenever they can. And again, I'm talking about even as simple things as looking at who's near the school classroom during recess. The girls are close. They'd like to talk to the teacher. They enjoy that kind of playing school, even at home. And the boys, they are as far as they can get. And they're off on their own. They're not interested in the teachers, not interested in coming back to the school. And they have these large groups. So just expanding on that a little bit, males then in their large groups really do like what I talked about, the dominance. They're fighting for who's best. They're winning and losing in the direct contest. And, girls don't like that, and neither do women. Oftentimes it's like apology if I happen to do better than you, or this idea of, we're all equal, and we want to stay like that, of course, unless you're the mother, and then you're the mother. If you're an actual mother, you're playing the mother, and then you get to be the dominant one. But mostly everybody's equal, and it's a very different enjoyment. And I would say that that's probably partially what you see in non-humans. So now I'm teaching about mammals and primates, and some of my research is based on the fact that, oh, wait a second, if you really want to understand humans, why don't we look at non-humans and see if these are the same, differences? And some of them are the same and some of them are not the same, but you certainly find the concern with infants and the closeness to grandmothers is typically more common in females, and males fighting out and having these contests and becoming, close to each other, literally, and then farther away from each other and injuring each other, but then forgiving each other. You find that also in non-humans.
Yeah. Fascinating stuff. And I want to get into.
Okay, so she's not talking that fast. I had it going a little bit. Faster. So basically, what she said is, she's been studying kids, watching them on the playgrounds, what they do when they go home and play, and the little girls will play. Want to continue playing school. At recess, they stand by the teacher, want to talk to the teacher, while the boys are off doing their own thing. This is human nature, and this is how they develop. Now, remember the previous video, and if you watch a lot of this content, right, you'll start to see a common theme here is that feminism wants to equalize everybody. There's no difference between boys and girls. These experiments are currently being done in some Nordic countries, Switzerland and Norway, etc., very egalitarian societies, and they're finding out the same thing, that when you just let boys and girls just do what they do, and you stop trying to pressure them to do one thing, the girls will do more community-oriented stuff, even what they're planning to study in life. They're going to psychology, sociology, become social workers, become nurses, things along those lines. And a lot of times the guys will become construction workers or go into the STEM fields, right? So this is just the way that it is. But again, this idea is about a few people, sticking their nose in everybody else's business is causing this big disruption. And why I care about this is because I don't want my son to be left behind, and I don't want my daughter to be left behind. I believe that all people should have the opportunity to become the best version of themselves, to enter into society and do what they want. But we shouldn't demonize women for wanting to be mothers, and we shouldn't demonize boys for wanting to become truck drivers or fix diesel engines all day. It's what they like. It's what they enjoy. Everybody should have the opportunity to do it. But I went to a talk not long ago, and actually she said she was going to come on my show. But anyway, it was a lady, I can't remember her name. She was from Australia. And in that conversation, in the conversation on the video I'm going to play right now in a little bit, they're going to talk about they want equality, not just for women, but they want equality for men. In other words, they want men to be able to stay home and not be demonized. They want men to change diapers and to do quote unquote more traditional type of women's type of work and have nobody criticize it and nobody critique it. Now, it may be true that some women want to do that, but a vast majority of men don't want to do that. And in what's really important from my perspective, I don't care what people do with their own life as long as you have the choice to do it. But what's really important to me is, or my frame of thinking is that the type of man that they want men to be able to be more feminine, more docile, all that kind of thing, all these different feminine qualities that they want to be able to import to men. The women don't want that. They want women want a masculine man, a protector, provider who's going to be able to get the job done. So you can want all this type of fancy type of language and all this kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, men don't want a masculine woman and women don't want a masculine man. That's what it all boils down to. That's what it all boils down to. Let's see what is he saying now here, because I think I want to go on to the next one.
The differences between men and women as it relates to dating and mating and strategy and jealousy, etc. But I heard you say the following quote on an interview, which I thought was totally fascinating. It probably helps just to start the conversation in a way by noting this. I said the exact same thing when I talked to Richard Reeves, who I know is somebody you're familiar with, in his book about men and boys, his book of Boys and Men, and the difficulties that men and boys are experiencing in modern society. And the notation was that these are on average descriptions and findings. And so I just want to plant that flag before we delve further into the conversation. But this is one of the quotes that I found from you, and it was basically about the differences between men and women as it relates to the male psyche and the female psyche. And if I remember correctly, you said, in general, on average, the male psyche is concerned with competition and cooperation, kind of interplaying between the two. And for women, it was about keeping things alive, if I remember correctly, is how you described it. I wanted to give you an opportunity to expand on what you mean by that, because I think that's a very deep insight into the minds on a very pithy level between the two.
Okay, so the next tool I want to show you is called Highlight. Absolutely love the approach they took with this app. You should see this. It's a personal.
Okay, so I just wrote this paper on survival, and I think if I had say this for non-humans and humans, and that is staying alive. It's so critical. It's Anne Campbell's theory from over 20 years ago now that I've expanded on with some of my colleagues here. And the idea that it makes no sense for a human or non-human female to risk her life too much, because first of all, any non-weaned offspring are going to die. And for humans who have decades of taking care of their offspring, there's a huge benefit to their offspring being able to stay alive and to be successful themselves. And I mean, reproductively successful and otherwise successful. So they can do well and have their own children do well. There's a huge benefit from mothers and grandmothers. And I don't think that can be overstated. It's just so important. So what my paper did is I said, okay, what is that evidence that survival is really actually more important for females than males? Well, across mammalian species, and there are a few exceptions, but not many, and this includes all human cultures, again, very few exceptions, but not many, females live longer than males. Now, why is that? So as a biologist, you have to ask, why is that? What's causing that? And the obvious answer is it's more beneficial for females to live longer than males. So what are the processes that allow females to live longer than males? So
all right, I'm going to stop it there. You guys can go over to that. She didn't really answer the question, if I remember. You know, he's talking about mating and dating selections, and she goes into males. I mean, males not living as long. All right, so we're going to stop that one, and this will be the last one we got coming up for the night. Let's see. Joyce Bennison, the difference between men and women. Yes. If dating a more docile man, not saying a kind one, but I really believe I would subconsciously lose respect for. I hear this all the time. I hear this all the time. I don't know what these people are talking about. I don't know what these people are talking about. I hear this all the time. And this video that I'm going to show right here is going to bring it all home. It's going to bring it all home. This one I just saw today, as a matter of fact. As I was preparing for this, I was driving around. I didn't make a video. When I was driving around, I had some stuff to do. And this video I'm about to play right now really brings the thing, what I got to say, home. And this one is called Feminine versus Feminist Woman, The Bridge. I don't know what that means, but this is the Dr. Daff show. That's the name of the podcast. So that's the name of the podcast. Dr. Daff, Feminism versus a feminist, feminine versus feminist woman. So it's more beneficial for females to live longer than males because women are relational and add to the community with their nurturing wisdom. All right, so I'm going to play this. So a lot of ladies on here on the panel. Again, you guys can go over. It's a 40-minute video. Seems like they did a lot of editing, which I didn't like. Just let the people talk. But I really want to highlight, if you can see here on my cursor here, I really want to highlight the woman with the beige, black woman with the beige. And she was talking about how she was once a boss chick and it blew up her marriage. So I think that was really something that I really wanted to highlight. So we'll play it from here.
Started out looking at the difference in roles. We didn't see them so much as contradictory, but I think that what has happened, 50 years hence, is that the feminist movement has somehow, the women's movement became kind of villainized because they looked as if they were denying their femininity. But I think that was part of the process of taking back their power.
Right.
So now you have these, I call them new age women, who are very concerned about their ability to express what they feel are feminist traits. And so today, listening to all of you, I don't think they're so contradictory, because I think you want the privilege of, and you also want the powers that go with a woman who fully expresses herself and has rights.
Well, one thing that I have noticed in terms of what you're sharing is that women who identify as being feminine maybe don't want to do some of the things, maybe saying, okay, a man and a woman can do the same job. And a feminine woman would say, absolutely not. I'm not interested in doing that, nor can I do it, nor am I built to do that. And oftentimes we'll see women who identify as feminist saying, I don't enjoy taking care of my appearance and taking care of my husband, and I don't agree with these things. I do think that there is a pretty big division when women are talking about things that are important to them in terms of what is truly more important or more valuable, depending on the woman.
I agree. Well, in terms of you talked about taking care of yourself. Coming from where I came, we saw the beauty game as being something that was imposed on us. I come from the generation where women were still wearing corsets. Often I look
being able to have something to always protect myself with this Berna allows me to have that peace of mind no matter.
It's actually a family. I would not.
Sorry, I'm trying to find this lady who I was was talking about here. I want to highlight what she says because she admits that she blew up her family. I want to get to that.
It's because you felt it restrictive.
Breath away that that's not obvious. Could you answer the why to that?
I believe you all burned your bras because you felt it restrictive, just like cosmetics, and imposed on you, and attractive to men, which is something repulsive, which I think is beautiful. But I think that's the reason why you did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was kind of the sort of a statement. It's like, what would be wrong if I was sitting here and my boobs were down here?
Wouldn't you be uncomfortable?
I mean, that's just where they go. That's real. It was a symbol.
I see.
I did have a couple of questions for Judith. Did you say that there was no childcare at the National Organization of Women's meeting?
Yeah, is that outrageous?
Yes. Is there a reason why?
I believe it's because it was an extremely classist organization.
Okay.
And which is humorous to me because most of those women were very feminine. And they had the time and the ability to not have to worry about childcare. They weren't concerned with the lower class. They were concerned with the upper class.
Sorry, I'm trying to find this
a
here.
stay-at-home mom, and I didn't remarry, so I was a single mom. And yes,
Not everybody.
well, yeah, there you go. See?
No, not everybody. So I'll go. I'm Maggie, and I'll be 50 next year. I do believe that we can have it all, but not at the same time. But I think what is important is that we are not equal. We are equally valued, but I think we are very different. And I think what can be confused is that we have a natural biology that we are born with. And I agree with choice. I also have advanced degrees. I've been an executive and all of that, but my proudest moments are having been a wife and mother. And for me, I want a masculine man. I have a masculine man. And what I tell the young women that I teach is that a masculine man requires a feminine woman. He is not going to compete with you. And that's the mistake that I made that cost me my first marriage, thinking that my big job, thinking that all of my accomplishments mattered in my relationship. They do not. What helps you in the corporate world can absolutely hurt you in the relationship that you want. So what I tell ladies is that you have to choose. Unless you can code switch and do both at the same time, it's very difficult, but you're going to have to choose. And the last thing that I would say is I don't think that we have all the time that we want if family is a priority because of that biology. I was married at 25, and we were able to have the kids in my 30s, but I had the relationship set. What I see a lot of young women doing is prioritizing career and then having that oh no moment, and they're scrambling. So I say absolutely work with your husband and find out what's best for your family, but go ahead and get that relationship settled out of the way. It's going to be so much harder for you for the kind of man that I think most women want.
Would you like to add to that?
When it comes to family, every family dynamic is different. And when it comes to especially each person serving their role within their family unit, it's important that the center of it is love. It's all situational, and it depends on what you feel serves you and as well as the other person when you come together.
The next prompt is that feminism and femininity are.
So she saw that she kind of blew up her family, and I see your comment here, Miss Anita. Agreed. We can have it all, but not at the same time. Life is about trade-offs. I'm so glad she learned and got another chance. You have to be able to turn off that masculine energy. The biological clock is real. Boss lady at work, wife at home. Can you really turn it off, though? Can you turn it off? Listen, I don't know. Would you all be surprised if I told you I have to turn off my femininity my feminine nature when I come on here? Would you all be surprised at that? All right. Let's see. So I'll play a little bit more. She's going to say something else a little profound. This is the host. That was her, Dr. Daff. She asked a question. And the next question is, if you're a woman, you should be a feminist. And that woman, Maggie, is going to chime in again. And I appreciated what she said here. I'm trying to find what she's speaking. Here. Let's see.
Hello everyone, I am Sally from Gaza. 5 seconds of your time.
Tougher exterior, and at the time I didn't know it, was just to protect myself. And when I learned the values and the morals that I had deep within, I learned that it resonated more with the feminine side.
Thank you so much for this conversation. It's been amazing talking to you ladies.
Miss Anita, if you want to join in, I dropped a link so you can come up and give us your thoughts about this.
So for me personally, the way that I was raised in a traditional immigrant family, both of my parents have PhDs, but my mom also cooked and took care of the family. And that's the example that I had. So you can be academic and, like me, been corporate since college. But what really changed for me is I did not realize how masculine I had become. And I work with a lot of masculine women in tech, and I did not want to become that. And what it took was having a failed marriage to show me that, you know what, the skills that help you outside in the corporate world can hurt your relationship. So for me, second time around, I got on the program that fast. I have a very masculine man, and what he says is, Maggie, tell the ladies that you're already feminine. You just have to stop fighting it. And we've talked a lot about power, and I believe femininity is our superpower.
I grew up in the 50s and so was married in early 60s. And it was the women's movement that saved my marriage. I had a husband who really changed at that time with what was happening. He got on board and we raised the kids together. And as a result of that, I see that as a sort of liberating time. And I do feel that it's important that everybody be out there and make a statement, because if we aren't in it together, it's not going to happen alone. It happens as a community.
Do you believe that every woman should be a feminist?
I think every woman who thinks about who she is a feminist. You'd have to not understand society and your role in it, and where the shoe pinches and where it doesn't, and how to remake yourself, to make yourself comfortable, and with an eye of how to share this with your community. But I think sharing with the community is extremely important.
All right. Let's see here. Sorry, hold on a second here. I'll add you back. I want to get rid of this here. There was a good comment here. Auntie A, we're assuming that a man stays in his masculinity and in good health, right? Sometimes situations arise, the roles switch, and most men are often not prepared for that. I think that every man ought to know how to cook, clean, sew, all that kind of good stuff. What say you? And thank you so much. I know this is impromptu, but you are always welcome.
Yep. I just wanted to jump on and say that, in 2024, I do think we need to know how to do what Dr. Allen, one of my great mentors, she calls it fake beta. I do think we need to know how to fake beta. So we may be very assertive. We may go after our dreams, in the corporate world or the business world. However, when we come home, we should take it off like taking off a coat or a hat. So I own 2 businesses. I have to utilize the masculine energy within me to have those businesses be successful. However, when I am not in my businesses, I am very much a proud feminine woman. I am very much passive, patient, and vulnerable. Those are the 3 tenets of femininity. So remember, masculinity is about strength and femininity is about power. Those are 2 totally different things. And yeah, I think it's sad because I was never instilled this, try to outdo men. No, my mom's like, baby, you got all the power. you got all the power. You got all the power as a woman. You need to know how to use that power, use that influence as a woman. So I feel bad for women that have been taught that and have been told that they were less than or whatever to try to now compete with men. No, I've always been told femininity is power. So that's just me.
Miles says that truly masculine men are out here are facing some tough choices, and that was one of the tough choices. Will you hear what I played the video about the girl who was at the on a date and all that. What do you think about that and these tough choices that men are making, and not getting taken advantage of, but meanwhile still trying to be a gentleman and show that you're a provider?
Like I said, I think it's sad that we've gotten here. It ain't that deep. Like, it's really not that deep. I didn't even understand the video. Like, it's not that deep. You go out with someone and you put your best foot forward. You hope they put their best foot forward. There's an instinct inside of each of us that, in my opinion, if we learn how to tap into, that will tell us what a person's true intention is. So I don't need to watch a bunch of TikTok videos. I don't need to, be online all day, every day. I use what God gave me, which is my instinct or my intuition. And I tap into that. But I think the man shows up and he's masculine and he has good intention. The woman shows up and she's feminine and she has good intention. If he's tapped into his instinct, okay, so he's not operating off of hours and hours of red pill content. Okay, that's what that sounded like. He was operating off of hours and hours and hours of red pill content, and she was operating off of hours and hours and hours of toxic femininity content, Shira 7 content. Yeah, those two people collided. That's all that happened. I go out all the time. I meet men all the time. I show up. I'm the girl. I get to know him. He gets to know me. I have no agenda. He has no agenda. And what happens, happens. If I feel like there's an agenda, if I feel like, somebody's playing in my face, my instinct will tell me that. My instinct will say, well, that doesn't feel good. Or why would you say such a thing? I would just directly address it. But it's weird to me how people, they're coming into these situations. And to me, it's like the content has ruined them. Because I've seen it happen with men too, where a man will go on a date with a perfectly lovely woman, but because he's been indoctrinated, he will ruin it. He will ruin it. That's why I've started telling people, take a break from social media. If you meet someone, the first thing I want you to do is leave social media alone and just interact with that person as a person. Stop looking at YouTube videos. Stop looking at the content. Just get to know that person. That is like ruining people. It's the content that, in my opinion, is ruining people. That's why I took my break. I actually met some wonderful people over the last 3 months, and it was refreshing to just get to know people without all that stuff like running in the background in my head. So that's my take on it. I'm now coming back off of my break, but that's what I experienced. Like,
what are your
people?
What are your thoughts about this comment here? I think finances ultimately change the dynamics of a relationship or marriage, especially if the female makes more.
Yeah.
In your practice, and how does a guy maintain his masculinity in the whole? If he's got to maintain his masculinity, she's maybe looking at him in a certain type of way. What has your practice told you about this type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, the video that I posted, what is his name? Where he talked about the viability of men. If you watch that whole episode, he talked about that that's going to be one of the major factors of marriages not making it. So it is the man.
Scott Galloway video? The Scott Galloway video?
Yeah, okay. That whole video. If you watch that whole thing, he talks about that. And he said, yeah, the man will, if his wife makes more money, and if she becomes more prominent in her career, the man will be on ED medications, the man might cheat, and the marriage doesn't make it. Yeah, the marriage doesn't make it. So yeah, I agree with that. It is tough because the culture has put into men that the main thing they're meant to do is provide and protect. And so if the woman takes over that role as provider, and she doesn't even have to be sole provider, she can be primary provider. But see, that usurps a man's programming. So it's hard. It's like, now what does he do?
So you said, I'm assuming you're saying social programming. Do you not think that it's biological? I mean,
no, I don't think it's biological. I think it's the culture. Don't get me wrong. I think it's in a man's nature to want to provide resources. I think it's in a man's evolutionary nature to physically protect. But I think the culture has set it up that that's all he can do. That's the culture. Whereas evolutionarily, there are men who are better cooks than women. There are men who do other things other than provide and protect, and they provide other things to a woman. But the culture says, nope, that's all you can do. You should be the provider and protector. That's very much a social construct. It is in a man's nature to provide resources, right? And it's in a man's nature to be physically protective because he's stronger and bigger. But there's lots of other things that he can do. There's lots of other ways that he could add to a woman's life and her happiness. But the culture doesn't focus on that. That's why men are less relational. They teach men to go out and make money. They don't teach men to sit and, rub his wife's feet and listen to her day and offer her validation. They don't teach men to do that. They say, go out, make money, bring it home, buy her whatever she wants. That's a social construct. So that's not God designed. So like I said, I want men to just open themselves up more to what God's design is for them. Like, what does God say? How did this thing pan out when we think about all the men in the Bible, right? That's what I want men to explore. Because yes, that Western modern, it's telling men that if they're not making money, and I mean, think about it. You see these toxic femininity channels talk about that it's all about money. If he doesn't bring a whole lot of money, no, that is not the only value to a man is the money that he makes. That's ridiculous. So again, I just want people to go back to the creator, go back to the originator, and really figure out what is man's role, what is woman's role. If they follow that, they'll be fine. Because even in the Bible, women, they did a lot of business-like things. They did a lot of things in the home, but they did a lot of business-like things too. So again, I just want us to explore that more.
All right. Well, I'm gonna disagree with you. I think that it is the man's role to be protector, provider. You did mention that, but I think that there's a reason that the ED. I watched the clip that you put up, and I did find the whole full video. So I do remember Scott Galloway saying that about men, and I'll play that clip in a second here. But I do think that that's just kind of the way that it is, and I think that the men, you talk about the men in the Bible. I'm trying to think of, they were all protectors and providers. The economy was obviously different, and it was not. The economy essentially was not the way that it is today, right? Women can work in an air-conditioned office, where that wasn't the case, 2,000 years ago, where they were all, you had to, clean the fields and all the other things. And of course, yes, the Proverbs 31 woman was in the markets doing what, making looms and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, but I just, and I think that what Scott Galloway and Richard Reeves are trying to do is to try to get men and women. Now, this is the socialization process that I think that you're trying to do, is trying to get men and women to say, okay, the woman might be making more because the economy has changed, because you now need a higher level of education. And because you need this higher level of education, because education as it's currently designed is not catering to boys, then they're being left behind because of all this. And now women are making a ton of money because they are better suited for this particular economy. And so now they're trying to convince the men to say, it's okay for me to do what was traditionally done by women. And for the women to say, it's okay to come home to a man who's not the provider and still try to love on him. And this is where the difficulty that we're coming in at. We're just running into this difficulty. So I don't know if you hearted it, so I'm sure that you liked it. My suggestion is we got to change the education for boys.
Yeah,
you got to change the education. If boys are being left behind because, and I'm not an educator on the K through 12 level, But if the pedagogy is not working for boys, you got to figure out a way to do it. And
Yeah.
if they need to go outside and play and run and jump and practice building a bridge, and while they're practice building a bridge, they're going through the geometry about how a bridge is built and all that, that may be something that is more enticing to boys and will get them to pay attention. I'm going to play the Scott Galloway clip here if I can find it. Let's see. I got to switch. But what did you have anything else? I got to switch profiles here. Did you have anything you want to?
No, I mean, I just think feminism's goal was, to push men down in order to lift women up, and that should have never happened. And if I could really be frank, men shouldn't have let it happen. Men should have pushed back. That should have never happened. They should have said, "Sure, you can stand beside us." But they should have never allowed it to get to where it is, where they just take a back seat. And I'm sorry, I squarely put that on the shoulders of men. Like, men should have said, no, we're not doing that. You're welcome to stand beside us, but we're not going to be pushed down. That's ridiculous to me. And so now, in order to balance that out, it's almost like, okay, well, we now have to have all these programs for men and programs for boys and all of that. And I mean, it shouldn't have come to that. Everyone should be encouraged toward higher education. Everyone should be encouraged toward, however they learn best. So that's, to me, that's the part that I'm not fully understanding, is how did men allow that to happen?
I think that I think that both sides didn't think that the current situation would be where it is. They thought they would equal everything out, and now it's just gone too far. Now there's this behemoth that we have to try to wrestle in. So let's play this Scott Galloway clip here.
Oh, she looks cute, or she looks nice, or she looks like she works out. Swipe right, swipe right, swipe right. Women are choosier. In addition, we have this unfortunate trend in society where young men are falling further faster than in any time in history, and women, generally speaking, mate socioeconomically horizontally and up. I'm sorry, women mate horizontally and up socioeconomically, men horizontally and down. And the pool of men horizontal and up is shrinking. Meanwhile, and this is wonderful, no group of people has ascended faster globally than women. There are more women seeking tertiary education now than men globally. And when you look at some nations don't like women going to college, that's a remarkable stat. The number of women elected to parliament globally, the elected body, has doubled in the last 30 years. There are more women, single women in the US now that own homes than single men. There's going to be potentially nearly 2-to-1 female to male college grads in the next 5 years.
Wow.
And by the way, we don't want to do anything that gets in the way of that. That's amazing. But what we also have to acknowledge is that if we don't figure out a way to produce more economically and emotionally viable young men, we're going to have a lack of household formation. Because regardless of the Hallmark Channel movie you see, women, generally speaking, aren't interested in men who aren't aren't socioeconomically at the same level or superior to them.
Interesting.
But they're less choosy.
So Scott Galloway here is saying the same thing that the young lady that Maggie played in the other video that I played. It's the same thing and this is what I'm saying. Listen, we it's great. And he said it twice in this video. He's always hedging this. Women are doing great. But if you want economically viable men, you got to focus on the men. It's time to focus on the boys. It's time. It's time because you want them. Not because I want them. I'm not going to marry a dude. you want them. The ladies want them. So this is my comment here. If you guys can read this here. So this is Galloway never goes deep or far enough. He keeps ending with, we need to figure out a way. And he's been thinking about this long enough now. I think he ought to figure it out. When are we going to figure out that way, Scott? The answer is to make more viable men, stable homes with strong male presence, mentors in male spaces. That means actually creating men's only spaces. I went to the boys. I went to the boys club growing up. We don't have that anymore. It's a boys and girls club. Separate male and female class. Separate male and female classes. We know boys learn differently, so we need to cater to them and make educating on something they want to do, stop demonizing masculinity, change divorce laws to incentivize men to want to get married. These and more ideas were, I meant to say laid out by women. If ladies date up, which he's admitted, then you have to you have to incentivize. I had some misspellings here. Did this from my phone, forgive me. Incentivize the men to want to move up. All of this means fully catering to boys without asking, what about the girls? So if you want to fix the boys, you got to focus on the boys, period. Those are my suggestions.
Yeah. But again, we never should have stopped focusing on them. We never should have stopped focusing on them. We never should have turned our attention away from like, oh, now we need to give all the attention to the females. Like, no, that should have never happened. Like, hey, females, come along with us. Hey, let's, that's what I don't get. Why does it have to be either or? That's the part that I've been saying. Dialectically, it should be both and, and that's where I want to get to. There are programs for men, there are programs for women. And I don't understand why, in this black and white society, it's either or. It's the same with the trans agenda. If you don't support, if you believe in biological women, you don't support trans. So it's like, can those two things exist? Can those two things just exist? Like, I don't want biological males in the locker room. Okay, I want to be in the locker room at the gym with biological females. So that doesn't mean I hate trans people. So that's always been weird to me, how it has to be either or. So
yeah, I don't like that either or type of thing either. It's got to be this way or you're
or that, right? Or you hate trans people. So I'm like,
yeah, they try to put us in a
box.
Try to put us in a box, and I
Right.
I don't appreciate that at all.
Yeah.
At all. So
yeah, so
all right.
that's just my opinion, but a lot of people are saying, so what do you think about this? A lot of people are saying, the toothpaste is out of the tube, that it's not going to go back, right? So what are we to do? Women are out here working, women are out here starting businesses, owning homes, getting multiple degrees. So you're saying, okay, now we have to make sure men are doing all of that? Is that what you think? Like, kind of get them back up there?
I think that there ought to be a focus. I think there's a few things that obviously that I laid out, but yes, we need to focus on boys. That means creating men's only spaces. That means creating a safe place or a different type of education. Again, I'm not an expert on pedagogy, K through 12 education, but we need to focus on that and figure out, why these boys are falling behind, why they don't want to get married. Is it the sitting in I was a star student, so I'm like I do remember a lot of my kids playing around, my friends, classmates playing around, not so I guess that is a thing. It wasn't something I can identify with, but if that's what the research is saying, then that's what the research is saying. And so let's fix that. Let's focus on these boys. If 10% of our black boys can read in grade level, that is a huge problem that we really need to solve, because that leads to the prison industrial complex. That leads to it leads to that they don't become viable mates. It leads to all these different problems that we have going on socioeconomically, and so we need to really address that. And to keep saying, as Scott got, listen, I appreciate Scott writing, doing what he's doing, saying what he's saying, but it's time to figure out some answers now. And the answers, and he said it 2 times. So he's saying, and nobody wants to say this out loud and all this kind of stuff, that we want to bring ladies back, put them back in the kitchen. No, I'm not saying that. Nobody wants that. But it's also time to say, listen, we need to focus on some boys. We need some good solid male mentorship programs. We need to get education for boys, separate classes. If they learn differently, let's focus on that. And let's figure out this thing and take a look at the divorce laws, take a look at all the problems and all the reasons why men don't want to partner up. And the number one survey, when I'm sure that you know this, when you ask in particular black women why are they not married, one of the biggest things that has been said since the 1970s is the men don't make enough. And there's also been research when men start to make more money, they actually get wives.
Yeah.
This is in research. So let's focus on that. It's great that women are doing, no matter how great a woman is doing, and that's why I played the other two videos. No matter how great a woman is doing, she still wants a man who's better than them.
I agree.
You can't get around that. You can't. We try. We can't get around it. That they want a man who is better than them. So you know what? We should make men that are better than them. Not because we are, but because that's what they want. If you want to, if you want this, you know, I mean, I don't. Tell me I'm wrong, but if that's what you want, that man has to be made. He has to be made.
Agreed. And like I said, I believe there's many ways a man can be better. So I don't just believe in financially better. There are other ways that a man can be better, you know. So that's what I challenge is let's open that up. Okay. So if a man was incredibly like handy, if he was incredibly efficient at things, just different things, better than me, I would consider that better. I would.
But do you want that? But do you want that man? Now, a lot of times ladies will say, and this may be the internet that you are suggesting we all take a break from, because a woman who's got a master's degree, because the education system is more geared towards her, would she be overlooking a guy who is an oil rig worker who's making $150,000 a year on an oil rig?
Yep.
Are you willing to, because now she wants to have an intellectual, and these are comments that I read.
Yep.
I want to have an intellectual conversation.
Right.
I'm up here. I want to have him be able to go with me to the mayor's ball and we can socialize with people.
Right.
What are we talking about? So I hear you when you say he can be better in different ways, but he has to be better in the ways that the woman wants. And one of the ways that she wants is financial. And number two is this socially mobile type of way where he can move up.
Right. Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying, but I've dated men that were better in the kitchen than me. They were better at fixing things, better at taking care of my car. You know, they were better than me in a lot. They were better editors. I dated someone who was a better, film editor than me and a better writer than me. And I was like, whoa, like you've got skills. So I appreciate that. I appreciate a man who brings a competence, who brings a skill, and it's better than me. So, maybe women can work on that. Because I'm like, yeah, there probably are ways that he's better than you, but you're not considering that. But I consider all of that. I do. If a man comes along and he's like, yeah, let me take some of your videos and let me, spice them up and re-edit them. And I look at him, I'm like, God dang, like this dude, okay, this is a skill I can use, right? Or if he knows how to fix my car, if he knows how to fix things in the house, that's a man who has a skill that I can use. If he cooks, So in my mind, that's what I mean. Like I want women to expand their idea of, better than them. But like I said, maybe that's me.
Empowerment says better than a woman. I might not have heard the examples, but please expound on what it does mean to be better than a woman. Well, and Miss Anita said it. She said it. It doesn't mean that you're well, you explain this.
Not better than a woman. It's better than me in the sense of that man has a level of competency in an area that you don't have. Right? He has a level of competency. He's mastered an area and you don't have that. I cannot fix my car. I can't cut trees down. Like there's a lot of things that I don't know how to do and I don't want to. But if that man came in and he said, yeah, I know how to edit videos, but if he edited videos better than me, I'm like, yeah, he's better than me. And I appreciate that.
But the problem is that too many ladies are saying that they want a guy who's better than them, as in I have a bachelor's degree, my man's got to have a master's degree.
Yeah.
Right. So they're not looking at the other things that I agree with you are valuable.
Right.
You might not have the academic skills to balance a budget or to to write beautiful poetry or whatever. But this man is fixing my car. He's does the roof. He cuts the grass. He's got all these other tangible things, and he presents in a masculine way. So what would be wrong with dating that type of man? And I think that there's far too many ladies who are saying he's got to have this social upward mobility, because I had the social upward mobility to be able to sit in a room with a bunch of lawyers, to be able to sit in a room with the mayor, to be able to sit in the room with you name the people. And that is something that they are looking for. And this would be considered almost part of the dating down. Now you want me to date down. Miss Anita wants people to date down.
Here we go. And again, what happened to the complementary, right? The masculine and feminine complement each other. So let's say if I'm extroverted, which I am not, but let's say I'm the extroverted, charismatic one, and my husband's the strong silent type. Like, that is actually a really good compliment. Why would I want him to be like me? Why would I want him to be extroverted and charismatic and outgoing? Like, no, he is actually a really good compliment to me being the outgoing one. He is the strong silent type. So that's the part I don't get. It's like women want the male version of them. To me, that's weird. That's weird.
He got to be able to talk with me. He got to be sensitive.
Right. That's weird. No, that's weird. I want women to recognize that there is a complementary thing that should happen. And, I'm introverted. I tend to date extroverts, because I'm like, I don't walk into the room and command attention. Oh, no, I am the observer. I walk in the room and I observe. But I tend to date men that are the life of the party. They are very charismatic and outgoing, and I let them be that. Like, yeah, go ahead, boo. Because I'm not saying anything. I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to observe people. That's it. But that's a compliment.
Pastor Lynn is saying if she's white collar, she may want someone similar. But if you are a real pastor, and I don't know this, if you're really a pastor, is this something that you have discovered? I've talked about this in the church world, and Miss Anita could probably comment on this as well. Very, very church oriented. Is this type of mentality keeping the women in your church, to you, Pastor Lynn, if you are indeed a pastor, and to Miss Anita, do you find that this is this type of mentality, and this is exactly what I think we should break, and I think that Anita and I are definitely on the same wavelength. We got to break this, because it's certainly a problem. If you can only date a white collar man, I mean, you're limiting your pool from a good guy who's a plumber who's making $200,000 a year, and just because you could clean them up. You tell me.
Yep. And again, we're missing the most important values of having a good partner. So if a blue collar man, and I've dated many blue collar men, if he's faithful, if he's loyal, if he is kind, if he's empathetic, if he's compassionate, right? If he's consistent. So to me, those are the things that make for good long-term relationships. So in my mind, you're putting this whole white collar, and he's got to wear a suit and tie every day. Okay, and again, if he is all those other things I just named, great. But if he's not, like, I just want, and like I said, in the history of the Black family, most Black women were married to blue collar men. This is a new phenomenon. This is a new phenomenon. My mother was married to what started out as a carpenter. My dad started out as a carpenter. Then he started his own contracting business. My dad's always worked with his hands, always fixed things, been a painter, a carpenter, all the things. My mom worked for the government. She was a supervisor and then a manager, but she had a office job, and my dad was a blue collar worker. So that was pretty typical. So it's weird to me that they're trying to flip that on its head, because that's pretty much how it's always been. Men had they had some sort of job in a factory, or they were a firefighter, or they were a postal worker, or whatever. Like, that's pretty typical. So that's weird to me that now they're like, nope, that's not good enough. It used to be. So I don't know. I don't know and like you said, maybe it's the fact that they're climbing up. And so now
they want a social climber. There was two
Right.
movies. There's two movies. What was that movie with Bobby Brown? He had the jacked up teeth, and then the sister fixed him up. Two can play that game. I want to say it was that movie.
It was one. I know what you're talking about. Yep, I know what you're talking about. I remember now. Yeah.
I think it was that one. So that was a mechanic. Somebody
Yep.
said, would a male mechanic even approach a female CEO? So that was a mechanic. I forgot the other movie where somebody was it was a Tyler Perry movie. When that movie where the black woman kept trying to be, she was sleeping with the white dude. Oh man, and you would never be Miss Cartwright. That movie, you'll never be Miss Cartwright. Anyway, so it can't happen.
Here's my answer to Crystal Wilson. If they are out at the grocery store and he's shopping for food and she's shopping for food and she fine as all outdoors, yeah, he will. He don't know that. He don't know none of that about her other than she fine. Dang, let me see what that's how men are. Like they don't know that and they don't care about that. She fine as all outdoors. Let me see what she's talking about. He may find that out, but they like women. Like that's it. Men like women. Men like attractive women. It's us that's putting all this stuff on it. That's why I don't tell men what I do. I don't tell men what I have. I show up, I be me, right? And I be sweet and all the, funny and all the things. And it's months later that men say, wait a minute, like, you hold on a second. Like, yeah, some of them even feel duped. And I'm like, that has nothing to do with nothing. You and I are just trying to get to know each other. And let's leave it right there. That's it.
Pastor Lynn says she's degreed and ordained, and yes,
Okay.
it is a problem. So we got to fix that problem. We got to fix that problem. The movie I was thinking about was Family That Prays. Thank you so much for that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. The male mechanic might be repairing your Benz. That was the Bobby Brown example I gave.
Save you a whole lot of money. Sure.
Yeah. How do you get around answering those conversational questions? I don't know what she's referring to.
Well, for me, so if a man says, so what do you do for work? I tend to respond and say, I help people with their problems. That's usually what I say. I help people with their problems. And he goes, like a counselor? And I'm like, sure. That's it. That's the whole conversation. And then we move on. We move on and we talk about other things. So, yeah. I don't tell them all of what I have, all of what I do, because to me, that's not what we're here for. It's not a job interview. It's a date.
Well, this is all presenting the problem that a lot of that we're dealing with like never before, and it's evident that it's a problem. It's evident that if you have to duck these questions and try to get around this to not hurt a guy's ego, or if a guy is in his mechanic's uniform and maybe he left work and he's stopping by the grocery store to pick something up and he sees this woman across the aisle who's just beautiful, that would he feel comfortable in his mechanic's uniform all greased up to go talk to her or not? Or is he going to get shot down? Or is he in her league? And these are all questions that we gotta solve in this day and time, so yeah.
Yep. So I still say, if she's beautiful and if he is in fact masculine, he is going to do it. He is going to try. And then if it doesn't work out, he's like, oh well, I tried. But men are gonna do men things. That's my belief. Men are gonna do men things, regardless of what they do, regardless of how much money they make. They're gonna do men things because that's to me what masculine men do. That's all. But yeah, okay.
All right, y'all hit the like button. I'm going to call it for tonight. We've been on for an hour and 45 minutes. I thank you, Miss Anita, for joining. I know it's past your bedtime a little bit.
Me. Yes.
So let's see. A couple weeks we got Miss Chris Marsh, who's coming up.
Cool.
Dr. Chris Marsh.
All right.
Are you aware of her? Do you know of her?
I know very little of her, but yes.
Okay. So she wrote a book, and I'm going to put the book up if anybody wants to read it. Chris Marsh's book. So this is the book. If anybody wants to read it, you know, she's coming on end of February 2nd is the date we put on there. So this is the book, The Love Jones Cohort. Very, very similar to Diane Stewart's book. There are some parts that I disagree with, or that are I kind of disagree with, and she kind of surprised me with some of the language in something about a survey in violence or something like that. I can't remember, but anyway. So anyway, that's the book if anyone wants to read it. So, but I am looking forward to having her on. We've had a couple conversations, so it's very, very nice, and we're gonna have a great conversation. So thank you to Miss Anita. I don't plan on doing any more lives until a while now, because it's Christmas season, football playoffs and all that kind of stuff. So everybody take care. So everybody enjoy your Christmas, enjoy your New Year. Again, as a former police officer, let me say, everybody be very, very careful. I had to deliver bad news to families this time of year, so take care and be loving towards your family. Remember the reason for the season, all that kind of good stuff, and cook some good food. I know I got to do that myself. So and that's it. We'll see you guys. Take care. Thank you again, Miss Anita, for joining on, and everyone who is in the comment section. And y'all, if y'all watch this in the future, hit the like button. Take care of yourselves.